Hey everyone, I'm Crystal Jigrup, and this is Empowered by Women. In August of 2021, I launched Book of Bijou, which is a line of chic and innovative jewelry storage. And in January of 2022, we expanded into what you now see as the Empowered by Women platform. I really wanted to create a centralized space where we can really put emphasis on our mission of women empowerment and community over competition. It really truly does fill my cup to be surrounded by so many of you inspiring women, and the energy that you bring to me and our platform on a daily basis is unmatched. You really all do fuel me with so much motivation to continue doing what I'm doing, and for that, I thank you. Before we jump into the episode, please be sure to follow or subscribe to us wherever you are listening, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite podcast platform. And also don't forget to share your favorite episodes with your fellow female founders so that we can continue growing our platform and furthering our mission. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this next interview with another incredible woman in entrepreneurship that I know you guys are going to absolutely love. Today, we have the incredible Clare Garner, who is the founder of this Millionaire mindset method that I am so excited to be diving into today. She is actually someone I connected with who is also going to be a speaker at the upcoming Women Thrive Summit. If you haven't checked that out yet, scroll back a little bit on our feed and you can find out what I'm talking about. But Clare, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to dive into all the juiciness of your story.
Oh, you're most welcome. And I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, I can't wait to share my story with you and get to know you a bit more and just spread the message far and wide, right?
Absolutely. So just take it back for us, like take it back to the beginning. Like, what is your background and how did that lead you to doing what you're doing today, kind of helping women to really cultivate their mindset so that they can own the prosperity that they absolutely deserve?
Oh my gosh. Where do I begin? I think my story is it's one that I'll try and condense down for you because basically I come from a kind of a childhood that was very, I want to get my words right here. A childhood that it wasn't bad in any way, but I lived in a very small seaside town where there was very little aspiration, very few ambitions, and very little was expected of you. And if you were someone that had big dreams or had big visions, it was something that was seen as not necessarily a good thing. And you were quite quickly put down and kind of put back in your box, you know? So I started by always having a feeling of how do I achieve what I want to achieve in this world when everyone is telling me that I can't do that and that is not for me. So I always had that inner hunger, but the exterior kind of walls around me blocking me saying no, that's not for you. So I had that and then I ended up in a 15-year abusive relationship, and I had my two daughters during that time. I'm going to try and condense it down for you. During that period of my life, I was able to start my first business because I had the entrepreneurial fire within me, and I managed to start something which, you know, I'm really proud of looking back because it was not a great time for me, obviously. And I built that to around 50k a year, so it was nothing like where I wanted to be, but with the situation I was in, I was kind of like, I'm doing okay, I can get there. And when I eventually managed to leave that relationship, that's when everything started changing, right? I had my spiritual awakening. I found myself, I found my worth, I stepped into the whole kind of mindset world and understanding myself and how my life had become what it had become, and working through all of that. And then I was able to really start propelling, and I moved my first business to 18 to 24k months. So it was now earning multiple six figures. I managed to start a second business in my spiritual world, which was in crystals, which I managed to build to 150k in the second year. I then set up my new business, which is Phoenix, which is my purpose, my passion, and what I'm really kind of excited about moving as I now move into my next kind of stage of my life. So sorry, yeah, that was a long story of my background, but there's so much, so much in it.
There really is so much to dive into and so many little like points in your life that I want to touch on. But I have been diving into your podcast. It's Phoenix Rise podcast, right? Is that, am I saying right? Okay. And I've been diving into your story, and I'm so in awe of you, really, for making it to the point that you have. And you have overcome so much, and to get to this really incredible mindset that you have, to have built what you've been able to build, it's very inspiring. So I want to go back to where your story kind of first started, and you were talking about like how you had this hunger in you. You kind of always knew that you were going to be an entrepreneur, right? But you didn't, quite know like how that was going to come to fruition, what that was going to look like. But something that I heard you say in your podcast was frequent feedback that you would always get as a child was that you talk too much. She would be great, but she talks too much. Or she's, excelling in all these things, but she talks too much. And that is something that I've seen in so many other people's stories, right? That's always just a negative thing, that you talk too much. But now look at you, you're using your voice in such a powerful way, and you have your podcast and you're helping women, and you've made it to the point where you're like, no, I don't talk too much. The world needs my voice, and I'm going to share it with the world. So I want to talk about like how you managed to pivot to that, and like what was that? Did you have that kind of like pivotal moment where you're like, you know what, my voice is a gift, and the things that I have to say, that is a gift, and I am going to use it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me, my last 5 years is really where like my huge transformations internally happen, because it has to start internally first, right? To affect your external. And so my spiritual awakening, it was all a path. So my spiritual awakening led me to working with crystals. The crystals led me to heal. So I started working with my solar plexus chakra, really finding my confidence, finding my inner strength, finding who I was, and really unblocking that. It also helped me to open my heart chakra, because obviously that was very blocked from what I had experienced. And you can't manifest from a closed heart. So that was a huge one for me. And coming from working with both of those led me to a point where, when I was making the multiple six figures in both of my businesses, I then took a step to invest in myself. And I was like, I'd got to the point where I now felt so empowered and so worthy of my dreams at that point. I no longer had the shame. I no longer had the apology for shining my light. And I was like, okay, I've got to my cap. I don't know how to grow anymore. And I invested in high level coaching in myself. So I spent 20 grand on a private coach and this mentoring container that I entered. And it was one of the best things I ever did in my entire life. And it led me to wanting to be a coach. It kind of ignited that passion for me. But during working with my coach and my mentor through that container, and she's still my coach. I hope that she is for a long time, because I absolutely love her. But as I was working with her and learning from her, it just gets your brain ticking, and when you've got that fire within you, and it's like it's dormant, and then something comes and it wakes you up, and you're like, oh. And all of a sudden it's like the lights just turn on, and you're like, dang, how did I never realize this is what I was meant to do? And it just kind of all clicked. It all fell into place. And I can't even tell you what the moment was. It was just suddenly, it was like I had awakened all over again. It was like I kind of went through a whole nother awakening for my purpose. And this is something that I'm really passionate about. It's what I talk a lot about, of having to be in your purpose to feel truly fulfilled. Because you can have all the money in the world, but if you're not fulfilling your soul, then you're going to feel pretty empty. So it's been incredible. It's been absolutely incredible. But I think, yeah, working with a coach for me enabled me to see what was missing in my life, and to realize that that's what I wanted to do, and to use my voice to help other women.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I am so glad that you did take that dive into investing into yourself to really get that light bulb moment to like click and like, wow, this is what I've been meant for the whole time. I was having another conversation in one of my previous episodes, and we were talking about how there are some women that like they've had it in them that whole time, right? But it just takes someone else being like, hey, this is like what you should be doing. Just
Exactly.
that simple comment, or that simple, just like one other person seeing it in you and pulling it out of you. And you're like, huh, you're right. This is what I'm meant to do. Talk to us about like your spiritual awakening, like break down what that means to us, because this is another thing that you kind of like talked about in another episode that you did. And I really loved the way that you made it so that it's for everyone. Like it's not something that has to be tied to crystals and
Yeah.
all these other things, like all of these, meditation and some things that not all people, are in tune with or that incorporate into their daily lives. But just because you don't have those tiny little details in your life doesn't mean you're not capable of having this spiritual awakening. So can you give us, the definition of what that means for you and what that can represent or be represented in, other forms for other people?
Yeah, and I think it's a really great conversation, because for me, I always had a lot of kind of preconceptions, judgments around what it meant to be spiritual before I had my spiritual awakening. And that always comes from, our upbringing and our limiting beliefs and what we end up kind of taking on as our own beliefs around that. So I always felt, and again, it's that inner knowing, right? I always felt like I wanted to believe in something more, but I wasn't religious, and the kind of none of the religions really spoke to me. And so I was kind of like, well, I don't really know. And it was only through universal divine timing, I met my best friend when I had my youngest daughter, Tilly, who's now 7. And it's always the universe, right? Synchronicities, divine timing. So we met at a baby group. And she always says, I am not the kind of person that she would have spoke to, because I was in my corporate world at the time. I was very like, I would go to the baby group with my little headset on, doing my business meetings. And I was very much in the kind of, blue chip corporate world. And she was kind of like the opposite. She was like as spiritual as they come, woo woo, like flowers in the hair, all that kind of stuff. So on a surface level, you wouldn't have thought that we would have connected from looking at that outside, but we did, because it's energy, right? Everything is energy. And when we connected, I felt straight away, I was like, there's something about this girl, like we've met for a reason, there's something here. And just over the years, as we grew closer, and our lives were so in sync. We were both in abusive relationships, and we both left at the same time and went on the healing journey at the same time. And just the more time that I spent around her, it opened me up, and I began to change my perceptions of what it meant to be spiritual. And I began to question things. It's having the awareness, right? Because if we're closed to curiosity, then we can never learn, and we can never grow, and we can never look outside of our closed little perception box that we have. So it enabled me to explore what I would call the spiritual world without having to label myself as spiritual at the time. So it was really great for me, because I was kind of on the outside, just peering into this world with intrigue and just like, oh, how is she so happy all the time? How is she kind of, she was never stressed, she was never kind of, I mean, we all get stressed, we all get worried, but not to the degree that, I definitely would be. And it was just amazing just watching how different her life was to mine. And I think just over time, it just spoke to me. And the tipping point really was when I left my relationship, and we had both left within the space of a couple of months together, and we just spent hours in her flat at the time, binge watching this tarot reader that we had found online, and it just resonated so much with both of us that we just went down this rabbit hole of anything and everything you could think of, everything spiritual. We were just like, give it to me, let's explore this. And it just kind of spiraled from that. And the more that I went into things, the more I started resonating with them, and the more I realized that actually I could still be who I thought I wanted to be. At the time, I was very much like in my corporate identity, I would call it. So I could still be who I wanted to be and be spiritual. Like you, because I used to think before that you couldn't be both. You know, you were either like really hippified and kind of woo-woo, or you were kind of like the corporate ladder kind of business chick, if you like. So it was great to realize that I could be both. And the more that I delved into that, I just learned so much about different things. But not everything is for everyone. And spirituality in itself, I believe, is just about believing in something greater than you, whatever that is to you, whether you call it a god, whether you call it the divine, whether you call it personally for me, it's the universe, whether you call it consciousness, you know, it doesn't really matter, because it's just something that is bigger than you. It's something that you can rely on, that you can put your trust in. It makes everything feel easier, you know, and it's kind of like, I always like to use this analogy of if you go to the dentist and you're having a tooth pulled, let's say, and they could say, well, we can do it with anesthetic or we can do it without. You know, there's no gold medal for doing it without. You know, why would you choose something that is going to be painful, that is going to make things harder for you? Why not choose the easier route? Why not choose something that is actually going to make you feel better, that is actually going to help you, that is actually going to be supportive to you and make your whole experience much more comfortable in the process? So for me, I think it's a belief, and it's a trust, and it's a support, essentially.
Yeah, I it's the universe for me as well, and it's definitely something, you know, that will reciprocate that energy that you're putting out there. Again, whatever your higher being is, whether it's your God, your universe, whatever the case is for you, and then just having that, whatever it is, meet you at the frequency that you want to be at.
Exactly.
And I love that you're bringing this spiritual awakening thing down to just being really in tune with what your energy is, because I think that makes it so much more approachable. And you're so right. You and the woman next to you can have completely different visions of who you want to be and what your life is going to look like. But you were both able to connect in such a deep spiritual way. And I think that's so beautiful. I think that's what I love so much about like in-person events, and why with our Empowered by Women platform, that's what we focus on, because when you are able to connect with women in person, you are able to get a feel for their energy, regardless of wherever your paths are in life and how different they may seem on a surface level. You are able to connect with their energy and kind of feel each other in that way. So I love that.
Yeah, I love that.
Let's dive into the relationship that you were able to pull away from, which I'm so grateful for. That's rough. And 15 years, that's a long time. So,
yeah, right.
you like, whatever you're comfortable giving us, like, did you have conversations when you like started the business? What was that like? Like, were you sharing what your hopes and dreams were, and what kind of like energy and feedback were you getting back from your partner at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I get comfy for this. So yeah, it's hard because when I met him, I was 18. So I kind of lived more of my adult life with him than without. So I grew, if you like, as an adult, taking on his negative energy, taking on his beliefs that he would kind of, you know, have and place upon me, because I was so young and naive when I met him. And obviously as years go on, that your external world gets a lot smaller, so it's everything, you know, that person to you is your everything. So you absorb their beliefs, you absorb their way of looking, you absorb their way of thinking. And there are lots of things that I can think of off the top of my head, but mostly around politics, because he was very big on politics. But I would take on his beliefs because he was all I knew, you know, and instead of me being able to have my own opinion or my own voice, it was easier for me just to agree. And that kind of crept into every aspect of my life. So with the businesses, I mean, it's a little bit complicated because I left many times, but I went back a lot of times. So there were periods where I would leave, and one of those periods was when I set up my first business. I left, I set up my business. I managed to kind of get myself on my 2 feet, if you like. But then as soon as that relationship started again, it was really hard. It was really hard to service clients and wanting to do your best for them when you're not in a good mental place, you know, when you're anything but good. So it was really hard. And I remember, you know, going to things like business awards and things like that with him as my +1, and just feeling like kind of such a fraud, because you've got people there celebrating you as an entrepreneur and as a successful entrepreneur, yet inside you feel like, how can I be so good in one area of my life yet feel like I'm completely trapped as a person? So yeah, it was tough. It was really tough. And especially, you know, like things like manipulation of he would want to be like a director on my business and that kind of stuff. So there were a lot of situations that were really hard to handle. But fortunately, I managed to move out of that situation. And I, touch wood, managed to do it with everything intact. You know, my businesses are still here and I'm still here and my daughters are thriving. So I like to say that everything happens for a reason. Some of us have harder journeys than others, but I truly believe that it's because we are meant to go through those experiences to help other women. And it doesn't necessarily mean to help them. So for me, it wouldn't necessarily mean having to work with women that have been in those kind of relationships. But for me, it's all about women finding their worth and feeling empowered to be their true selves, right? That's like my wow factor. I'm like the money thing is huge for me, because so long I was so suppressed with money, especially in that relationship. And it was such a tricky topic. So it is a massive thing for me that I just want to empower every woman that I meet or encounter to say, you deserve your dreams. You deserve to live the life that you want to live, because that's what your soul is here to do. And it's kind of your obligation to do it, because otherwise the people that you're here to help can't find you and you can't help them. So it's, yeah, that was kind of like, I went a bit around the houses there, sorry. But yeah, I'm here and I got out of it, and I've got my lessons and my mountains from it that I can now use to help other women.
It started to make me a little bit emotional when you mentioned your daughters. I didn't realize that you had daughters. I'm also a mother of 2 young girls. So I think I'm just like 10 times even more in awe of you, and so proud of where you've come, and the fact that you didn't only, you know, change your life for the better, but you were able to do that for your daughters and be that role model, to be that strong woman that
Yeah.
stands in her power, that knows who she is, that knows what she deserves, and you're able to show them that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're already impacting so many women, but that in and of itself is more valuable than anything.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So let me try not to get so emotional. Let's just
maybe you'll get smoke going.
um, but I mean, in relationships in general, I think especially like if you didn't go into the relationship as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, that can definitely be like a place where tension arises, where it's kind of like a different dynamic that you have to work through, and you really have to get to that point where you're like, is this who I am? Like, who am I at my core? What is it that I want? What is it that, what kind of future do I envision for myself? And the ability to have that conversation, if you have a partner willing to have that conversation, or do what you did and have the strength to walk away, which again, I'm so grateful that you did and that you're here. And we're chatting today and we're building a relationship. So more power to you. Again, I'm just so in awe of you. And then I feel like I could just like sit here and like reflect on everything that you just said for like forever. Let's dive into this millionaire mindset. Tell us, what is that? What is this method that you've created and that you're helping women to utilize across the world?
This is pure defiance, right? That is what it is. That is cool. It is a big, I won't swear, but it's a big kind of finger up at all of the haters, all of the shamers, all of the people, the societies, let's say, that try and keep women small. And it is saying, so I'll just tell you the name itself. So why I call myself a millionaire mindset coach is it's not about the money, and a lot of people think it is. So it can be, of course, but it's more than that. It's about saying, this is my dream, whatever that may be to you. This is my dream, and I am not ashamed to admit it, let alone go and create it and manifest it. So for me, it was hard, I'm not going to lie. It was hard to call myself that, because I knew that there would be people who would try and put me down for it, or who would try and make out that I was trying to be something that I'm not, or whatever they want to kind of spin on it. But I knew within my heart, and I believe I was divinely called to call it that, because it was very much one of those downloads from the universe. And it just was like, yes. And it came around because as a kid and as a teen and as a young adult and all my life, I always just had a dream. I wanted to be a millionaire. And that was just my goal, right? I had no direction. Back in my younger days, I had no idea what I really wanted to do with my life, but I knew I was meant for more. And I knew that I was meant for big things in the world. And I knew that being a millionaire would be part of that. And so it really comes down to the wow factor, the being worthy of wealth, and just owning it and saying, whatever my dream is, I am owning it. Because if you can't own it, you cannot create it. You cannot manifest it, because you have to feel worthy of whatever you desire in order for the law of attraction to bring it to you, right? You have to meet it at its frequency. You have to feel grateful that it's already yours, as if it is, because that's the only way that you can manifest it into your life. So at the core, it is the wow factor. It is the being worthy of wealth. And essentially, it is just about working with women to unlearn everything that they've learned from society and to create a new mindset that is actually beneficial to the life that they want to live and create. And that's what the millionaire mindset is.
I love that so much. And I love that you keep re-emphasizing like you knowing it in your core, like this is who I am, this is what I want, this is what I'm worthy of. I absolutely believe that, because once you have that profound belief in yourself or whatever your vision is, like literally nothing can stop you. Because
Yeah,
your
100%.
belief is so strong, even whatever other beliefs other people may have, like it's nothing compared to how deeply rooted you are in your own belief. And you're so absolutely right. You know, that it's one thing to wish to be a millionaire, but if you don't believe that it's ever going to happen, then it's never going to happen.
Exactly.
It absolutely is more than just, you know, that dollar sign. It is the mindset, it is the work that you're putting into it. And I think that's, that's where people have a misconception about what manifesting is. It's not just about hoping and praying. You have to do that inner work. You have to figure it out and really internalize all those feelings inside the core of your heart and soul. So I love that you dove into that. What tips do you have for people that are kind of just like starting on their journey now? Like, what actionable steps can you give to our listeners and viewers who are kind of like on this path, like, okay, I think this is something that I do want to do. How do I start like working my mindset to really build that courage to go after all these dreams that I have?
Yeah, it all starts with, like we said earlier, awareness. So I love this saying, you can't Google a blind spot. You can't Google something that you don't even know is there. So for anyone listening to this podcast, you now know, you now have awareness. And that is your best friend, because that means that you can do something about it. But if you're not aware, then you can't change it. So once you've got that awareness, it's then a case of questioning literally everything that you think you know. It really is, because everything we believe is exactly that. It's a belief. And I heard this phrase, a belief is a lie that we have. So we believe the lie, because a belief is just something that is imprinted in us from our upbringing, from our caregivers, from society around us, from the media, from the news, everything that we absorb up until the age of, well, new studies say age 11 now, it was 7. So up until that age, we just take on as fact. We don't even question it. Our child brains just take it on as fact. And the sad thing is that most adults never question it. They just go throughout their lives with these beliefs, not even knowing how they kind of have them, but living and dying by them and keeping themselves small because of them, because that's what they believe is what they should do, or what is possible for them, or what is being a good person, or a good mother or a good wife, or whatever the case may be. So it is really a case of questioning every belief that you have around what it means to be successful, around what it means to be wealthy, around what it means to be a visionary, to make a big impact, to be a torchbearer, to make waves, to make ripples, to make change within our society and within our world. Because if you believe on a deep basis in your subconscious mind that to be rich means you're a bad person, or means you're greedy, or you're arrogant, or you're up yourself, or whatever, kind of sayings that you've heard and associated with that, like I did for a long time. I was made to believe that if you want money, you're really shallow. You must have nothing kind of good about you because all you care about is money. That kind of messaging. And if you believe that without even realizing you believe it, you can't manifest more money into your life because it's not going to meet at the same frequency. You're really there. You think you're there, but you're actually there. And money's up here. They're just not going to match. They're not going to attract. So you have to reframe everything around the life that you actually desire. Question what you believe that means to you. Reframe it, because when you know what you believe, you can change it. Then when you get to the root, you can change it and make a new belief, because you can choose to believe anything you want. You can wake up tomorrow and choose to be anyone you want. Your identity is not fixed. You can change at any point in your life. I've changed multiple times in my life, and I'm sure I still will. But you have the awareness, and you have everything that you need inside of you. Everything that you need is inside of you. But you have to be willing to do the work to change it. And when you change it, your whole world will change, because your lens changes. The things that you see changes, because your reticular activating system will show you different things. You will see different opportunities different things will come to you because you're then on a different frequency and attracting different things. So change your belief, change your life, essentially.
Absolutely. All of that was so incredibly powerful, and you're so incredibly right. And an analogy that I've been using lately is, when we're growing up, we're given this box, right? This box that's put around us. These are all everyone's beliefs and thoughts of how the world should work and the traditional whatever path that you should go down in life. But when you get to a certain point, you do have that power to control your life, right? Take that box off, give it back. Thank you for raising me with whatever beliefs you have. That's great. I'm glad to be where I am now. I'm grateful for it. Now I'm going to start creating whatever my walls are going to look like, whatever my, ceilingless home will be. And like you said, you have the power to do and be anything that you want. And it's all up to you.
Exactly.
You're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't mention this at the beginning, but Claire is actually our first international guest. She's in the UK.
Oh, wow, am I?
Right before bedtime, so I'm so appreciative of you. Do you work with clients worldwide?
Yeah, I do. And that's so funny, actually, because most of my clients do seem to be in America. I don't know why.
So if our audience does want to work with you, which I would not, I wouldn't blame them if they did. You're amazing and you have so much insight and so much power to share. And I see it just from this short conversation with you, but where can they find you and everything that you do?
Yeah, of course. So multiple channels. I'm probably the most active on Instagram, so at Empowered Phoenix Rise. I do show up on TikTok, but you're probably not going to want to find me there. That's just little silly videos. And then the website, which is in phoenix-rise.co.uk, not .com. But Instagram is probably the best spot to DM me and just have a chat. I will never say no to having a chat with anyone. And if I can help you in any way, whether it's working with me or just a little bit of guidance and support, I'm always happy to do that.
Love it. And of course, all of those links will be in the show notes, but definitely reach out to Claire. You can see how much wisdom and love and passion and how genuine she is with what she does. So definitely reach out to her. But Claire, thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure getting to know you more, which I know this is just the start of our journey together, but thank you again.
Oh, you're most welcome. So lovely to meet you, and bye to everyone.
Another incredible interview with yet another inspiring woman in entrepreneurship. I hope you guys loved that episode just as much as I did. Before we leave off, if you yourself are also a woman entrepreneur, I would love for you to consider joining our Empowered by Women directory. We're looking for women-owned product and service-based businesses in the US to help us build the go-to place for our communities to find local women to shop with and connect with, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. All of the details can be found on www.empoweredbywomen.com/apply-directory. Of course, that's going to be linked in the show notes below, and you're also welcome to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions. But other than that, thank you again so much for joining us, and I will see you in the next episode.